What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Two Sinners on a Sunday.
Hi, everyone.
How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing very well, actually. I woke up with a big smile on my face because we've just passed 100 subscribers all the way up to 109 subscribers, man.
Well, what is
What
happening?
is happening? I'm excited. I am excited. This is exciting. Okay.
Oh, was that like some of our subscribers cheering us
Yes,
on?
we have a live audience.
Oh my goodness.
Apparently, we don't worry. We can't afford live audiences yet. No, no. Which
Mm.
would be really cool, by the
Unless,
way.
yeah, because we would be having to pay them to, to,
Yes,
to, to be in the room with
exactly,
us.
exactly. Yeah, it's fine. We would pay them with our beautiful singing that we've already done.
Yeah.
Do some Hasadiga Iboa, and they're paid. That's it. I'm sure that's all they
Not,
need.
I'm not sure that that's all that they need. I think, I don't know.
What? Okay. Anyway, thank you guys for your support, and I'm really glad that the YouTube algorithm gods are finally smiling on us and are
Yeah.
pushing our videos to anyone that is watching and that is scrolling through YouTube and is seeing our channel. So, thank you very much for being here. And if you're here for the first time on our podcast, welcome. We hope that you stay through it because there are so many things that we are going to talk about today that we have teased our audience for a very long time since we started this channel. And what is that going to be, Ali?
Well, we are going to talk about these Mormon temples that many people have only seen from the outside and maybe don't really understand what goes on the inside, what's their purpose, especially for you, Evans, as an
Yeah.
outsider. You can come at this from a place of curiosity and wondering. I'll try to answer any of your thoughts or questions. And I know that recently, when you came out to visit, I was able to take you to one. At least we
Yes.
walked around the grounds and
Yes.
it gave you an idea. I guess I could start there. Had you ever
Of course.
seen one before?
I had seen one before. I think I saw one in Ghana, but from afar. The impression, obviously, that everyone has, everyone that is not in the Mormon religion,
Yeah.
at least from the point of view from Ghana, is there are different types of societies that
Okay.
exist within Christianity. And one of those societies is the Latter-day Saints. Now, in Ghana, that's what we knew them as. We knew them as the Latter-day Saints. I didn't know that Mormonism was even part of their name
Oh, interesting.
affiliations. I
Right.
didn't even know until later on that I found out that Mormons were the same as the Latter Day Saints. But I didn't also know that they were also called the Church of Jesus Christ.
Of
So
Latter-day Saints.
exactly. So cue the song.
Yeah, I know.
I would hear people say, "Oh, I go to the Church of Jesus Christ," which is okay.
Mm,
Okay, that's fine. And in Ghana, there was another denomination that was called the Church of Christ.
mm-hmm.
So when
Yeah,
someone told
sure.
me that I go to the Church of Jesus Christ, I was like, oh, okay. So the Church of Christ is just another church, charismatic church. We know that it's fine. It's the normal denominations of churches that's allowed, right? I never met anyone that told me that they are a Latter Day Saints attendee, right, or observant. It was very easy to come up with ideas about what these people do. We will see their buildings from afar. It will have the Latter Day Saints written on it with a cross, and not necessarily a cross. I actually don't remember.
I was
Like,
about to say,
yeah, I'm
we
just
don't. So I
yeah,
mean, that's one thing in and of itself that I can unpack for you real fast.
yeah.
The Mormon faith doesn't prescribe to the symbol of the cross. In
Mm,
fact, it's quite the opposite. They prefer an image of a resurrected Christ, and
mm,
they kind of have this little chip on their shoulders to some extent where it's like, oh, these other denominations, they focus on his death. We focus on his resurrection. So almost like, well, we're more positive or we lean more that way because of the
okay.
fact that, it's more focused on how he has been risen as opposed to he died for
Right. So
us.
more like
So
focusing on
no crosses.
yeah. So focusing on his power rather than on his
Yeah.
suffering. Right. So
Sure.
so rather than a
Yeah,
suffering savior, more like
exactly.
a redeeming, powerful savior kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay, it's
Yeah,
very interesting.
exactly.
So yes, so that's one of the things that I observed. Yeah, because the imagery of crosses on buildings is
Yeah.
so inflated in my brain with
Right.
every church. So it's so easy to imagine that.
Yes.
But now
Yeah.
I just realized that no, it didn't have one. And one thing that we all noticed as well is most of
Okay.
these buildings had basketball courts. That was what we associated with these buildings. Like, why do they have basketball courts? Like, all
Yeah.
these buildings have basketball courts.
Okay, so let me explain. So where I took you was an actual Mormon temple. And so we
Right.
walked those grounds, and that is a massive white building. And on the very top typically is an angel, and that angel is Angel Moroni.
Mm-hmm.
From
Mm-hmm.
the Book of Mormon musical, you remember Angel
Yep.
Moroni, the all-American angel.
Yep.
Anyway, so he's typically on the top of these buildings. But then we have the meeting houses, and
Uh-huh.
meeting houses anybody can go into.
Mm-hmm.
That's why if you saw a basketball court inside,
Mm-hmm.
it's because it was a meeting house, and anybody can freely go in and out. You're
Interesting. That
welcome.
makes
So
sense.
that's where you go every Sunday. That's where you go for Sunday activities after church, before church. During the week, there's the youth groups, women's groups, there's the men's groups.
Mm.
All of these things go on in those buildings, and those are open to the public. But the temples is more like that country club feel where you have to pay to play. I
Okay.
don't mean that in any other way than really how it's coming across,
Subscription
because
based.
ultimately, yeah, it really is at the end of the day. Yeah.
Let me give you the skeleton of the bad information I had about Mormonism. Okay.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay,
so,
fair.
right. So, coming from Ghana, that's the kind of imagery that I had. I associated basketball courts with that. Like, oh, okay, that's them. I don't really know why. I never really saw people play over there, but they always had it. And it was very easy to say, oh no, those people, they are very different. Oh no, they are not Jehovah's Witnesses. They are not Seventh-day Adventists. They are not any form of denominations that are recognized, that are accepted. They are a cult.
Okay.
And it's like, oh, okay,
Interesting.
that's interesting.
Okay.
Now, I'm someone that I've never met a Mormon in my life, but I'm coming from a place of Christian indoctrination where you don't really need to seek for good information to come up with a very strong opinion about someone you've never met before. So we've demonized everyone. We've demonized atheists. We've demonized everyone that we've never met before. So, adding Mormonism to the cult club, that was very easy. It's very easy to demonize
Sure.
everyone. So, as a 70 Adventists as well, we pride ourselves in being the special, special, special ones. So, according to us, as far as we were concerned, everyone was in a cult. So, Mormonism was like, oh, okay, you are one of those guys that are so unfortunately deceived by the devil. And
Mm.
obviously, if as long as you read our books and our special, things and listen to our prophetess, then you realize the error of your ways, right? So that's the impression that I had. And obviously, as I grew up and as I came to the UK and as I get more exposed to social media, I also started to learn a bit more bad information. At least that's what I think about Mormonism, which is, oh, they have these secrets as well. Oh, they wear these secret underwears. They have these secret handshakes. They have these
Mhm.
secret things. And then there is the golden plate, and there is a this, and there is a that. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay, that sounds very exciting, but it's clearly a cult. Like, come on, man. Jeez. So I didn't have good information. Now, I meet you
Mm.
and we start to talk, and I start to realize that, okay, they were not necessarily all bad information. Some of them were half true. So today we're going to spend some
Okay.
time
Fair.
realizing what I knew to be right and what was absolutely wrong about what I thought. And then also to give you opportunity to spill more Mormon secrets and what goes on in the temples.
No, I think it is fascinating how we grow up and that ignorance is almost championed. Like the
Mm,
less you know about other religions
mm,
and the more you focus on the one you were born in, the better things are for you
yeah.
because you're more faithful. You're feeding into that us versus them mentality where
Yes.
you are really trying to distinguish how they are a cult. And I probably would have said the same thing about the Seventh-day Adventist Church,
A lot of
or for
people said
sure.
that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
had a lot of friends in school, when I was in school, tell me that I was in a cult, and I was like, "What? What are you talking about? I'm clearly not in a cult. What? If only you read
Yeah,
my books."
right. Oh, I remember the first time somebody pointed out to me that I was in a cult, and I was just like, that's insane. What are you talking about? Like,
What?
no, a cult would be we'd all be wearing the same clothes, and we would be in some commune on some. Okay, stop. Stop. Stop it.
It's like,
We don't
oh,
we don't
right,
wear the same clothes on the outside of
right.
our clothes, Evans. Going into the temple for a faithful member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's like the holiest place that you can go. It's something some people
Mm,
wait and save to get to a temple. And so I'm not here to mock or belittle anything that I'm about to speak about when it comes to the temple. We've been talking about this for how to approach it and everything. And ultimately, I am gonna ruffle feathers, and I am not, even if I'm the most respectful that I can possibly be, it's never going to be good enough. There's
yeah.
always going to be somebody that isn't going to like what I'm doing or what I'm talking about. And I don't gain or derive any joy in this. I just, where my heart's at and will always be is to give information, because what I'm tired of is people not being given all the information and
Mm.
being asked to do things without full knowledge or understanding. Given people informed consent is what I feel is important. And if you're given as much informed consent and you make any decision, whether you want to join a cult or a dance troupe or I don't know, whatever else you want to do, that's perfectly fine. Sign away.
I want to join a dance troupe. What do you have against dance troops?
I have a lot against you joining one because I don't know if
The
public
way,
should
see, the way my
know how
knee,
you
the
dance.
way my knees are set up, I think I might be able to survive a dance group for like a day.
How
But
long? A day. Ooh.
yeah, but I think I need informed consent. I need all the information,
You do.
as
You
you
need
just
to
said,
understand
in order
exactly
to sign up to
how.
a dance troupe. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right.
So that is going to be where I come from. So, haters, you want to come for me, come for me. And if you can understand at least that I'm going to do my best here and be as respectful as possible, but I do want to share as much as I can. And with Evans having a totally set of fresh eyes on this, I think it'll be very interesting for us to kind of discuss and talk about, you know.
Really looking forward to it. And yeah, to add to your point, when you are addressing information that is deeply held and kept deliberately as a secret to the public, you come out and then you realize that it doesn't need to be a secret. And in fact, keeping these things as secrets do cause more harm, given that we don't know what is going on there. That
Yeah.
allows for all of these harmful behaviors to be perpetrated and to visit it on children and women and also men as well. It's very necessary to always expose, not even expose, but at least address these things and question them.
Yeah.
And that will never be something that people who are in the religion will be comfortable with. And that's not something that we can control. I can't control how you feel. We can't control what makes you tick. We just, and we don't plan to actually.
No.
If anything, we want to press those buttons, just as you're pressing the subscribe button right now. All right, cool. So, guys, before we start, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and share and do all the stuff. Anyway,
All right.
Madam
Well,
Ali,
thank you.
the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm going to come at it from a question: sacred or secret?
Sacred or secret? Okay.
Yeah. So let's start there. So, in the LDS faith, members are taught that the temple is so sacred that you shouldn't discuss the ceremonies, excuse me, outside its walls, not even with your spouse. That means
Okay.
that before my first time, I had no idea what I was walking into. So, my very first time to go into the temple was, let me think, I think I was 21 years old. And basically, I went in with my parents because it's just so ingrained that what goes on in the temple stays in the temple. We don't talk about it outside of there. So, of course, I had very little knowledge. I had no idea what was going to happen. I knew that I needed to wear certain clothes and I knew I was going to be given the garments. And
Hmm.
we've touched on those in other podcasts, but just to go over a little bit about those, I mean, that is the sacred underwear. And I'm going to use the language that would be respectful to a believer who's listening to this. And so for them, these are sacred articles of clothing that they are to wear underneath their regular street clothes. And we could totally do an entire podcast just on what that's all about and what that's like. But basically, when you go to the temple for the first time, from that day on, that is when you are asked to wear those undergarments for the rest of your life.
Okay.
So
What's the reason that's given to why you're supposed to wear these special undergarments?
the short answer is that it is there to be a reminder of the sacred covenants that you are
Oh,
going to make while you are in the temple.
okay.
And another way to look at it, some leaders of the faith have also said it is a protection for you and you will wear them and it'll be of a protective nature. It'll keep you safe from harm and it's kind of like very cotton polyester armor that you're gonna be wearing.
Safe from harm. Can you
Yeah.
explain that?
There have been legends or like stories that have circulated about how, oh, I was in a car accident and all my vital organs, like because it covers your chest down to your knees. And so basically they were like, oh, my body was spared or I was in this fire and like I was burned everywhere but where my garment was. And so I don't know
Oh.
how true any of these stories are, but this is definitely in the milieu of the Mormon faith where
Ah.
these will protect you from harm.
So it's
And
like a not quite a bulletproof, but might serve as a bulletproof in
yeah,
some perceived danger that might
in some
maybe
way.
not pierce or
Yeah.
not pierce, burn or not burn, maybe kind of. What about your
Hmm.
head or your neck, your fingers or
Right?
toes? No, no.
Yeah.
I guess screw
So
it.
that's why I'd say it's more like the legend, the myth
Right,
that
right,
kind of
right.
gets circulated, but it
Okay.
is to be like a protection for you to also remember in all your days the
Hmm.
things that you promised inside of the temple. And they have certain symbols on them that are just on the garment itself that are to remind you of those covenants that you make.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So these symbols are representatives of certain tenets,
No, it's the covenants that you're making, the agreements that you're making within the temple,
and
which we
that's what
will
the
talk
symbols,
about. Yeah.
right, that's what the
Yeah.
symbols represent, the
Yes.
covenants. Okay. All right.
Hmm.
Well, that's very
Yep.
interesting to learn about that because I always wondered what that
Yeah.
meant and why that
Yeah.
was prescribed. So it's good to
Yeah.
know.
There are four that are on the garment,
Okay.
these symbols, and then the rest of it is design, and the design has evolved over time.
Okay.
It used to be like long john type of a garment, and my grandpa, my sweet grandpa, oh my goodness. I think he was born like in the 1920s. He loved the long
Wow.
john look. So he preferred that one, but it had evolved over time. And now, it's just, for the most part, it's a top for men and women and a bottom for men and women. And even in recent days, they've also started to change the design of the garments. But like I said, that would be a podcast in and of itself
Is
that we could
this?
explore
Yes,
all about
I'm very
garments.
interested in exploring the undergarments. So it would be nice if they had like bikini style ones too. If they are,
No.
if they are evolving the style, why limit yourself to long johns? You might as
To
well
be
just
honest, the latest,
sensuality into it. It's an undergarment after all, no?
this isn't Victoria's Secret, Evans, okay? I'm sorry. It's not like that.
Hey, maybe we could run a franchise. Mormons for Victoria's Secret. Like, hey, come on, man. We need to evolve. We need to make things
Okay.
more fitting for. Anyway, what am I talking about?
I don't know.
Thank you very
I
much
don't know.
for for explaining that.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of what's going on inside of the temple, it's kept under wrap. A lot of girls are going their first time when they're going to get married. So they are thinking, oh my goodness.
Oh,
So traditionally, let me go back a second. Traditionally, a young
mhm.
man will go around the time he's about ready to serve his mission.
Which
And
is around 17, 18,
1819.
18, 19.
1819.
Okay.
Yeah. As it stands today, it'll be 1819. When I was a youth, it was 19.
Okay.
And so that's their first exposure to the temple. A young woman, because she's encouraged to get married before going on a mission, or not even to go on a mission, but to put the priority on getting married, generally her first experience is around or on her wedding day. And
Mm.
so it's supposed to be this beautiful day. She's got her hair done, nails done, she's got her dress. It's kind of a shock. You go
Mm.
in there and nobody's really prepared you. Sometimes you will
Wow.
be able to do what they call a temple prep course. But even within that, if they even have that available to you in your congregation, it's very benign and they very much limit what they share with you about what goes on in the temple. You really
Wow.
have to experience it to understand
So
it.
so then back to the question, is it sacred or secret? Like it makes you
Yes.
wonder. Because
Yeah.
even as a member that you're training and you're really in it, I mean you didn't really choose, you were born in it, right? And
Yeah.
and it's there's no way for you to escape it. Even then, they limit the amount of information that they give you
Yes.
until you are
Absolutely.
completely exposed to it. I wonder why that is, like to under prepare someone so that once they get into the temple they are, overwhelmed with just how
Yeah.
massive it is.
Yeah.
I don't know what's in there.
Yeah.
I don't know, do you guys like
Right.
have walk on streets of gold and stuff? I have a question. You mentioned that for ladies most of the time you don't see the temple until the wedding day.
Yeah.
What about ladies that serve missionaries? That serve the
Yeah,
missions.
so those young women that make it to 21 years of age, that was when you could serve a mission.
Hmm.
In my generation, they've not too long ago lowered the age for women as well. But yeah, now many of them are going for their first time when they go on a mission. But back when I was a youth, and I can speak mostly to that,
Yeah.
it was when you went and you got married.
Mm.
And that's what it was for me. Typically now, because they're allowing for the sister missionaries to serve missions earlier and they're welcoming the sister missionaries really want to do that before marriage, then it's okay. And so they're going and doing that beforehand. And if they never went on a mission, then generally you wait until like you're 25, 26, 27, 28. You're getting up there in years in
Mhm.
Mormon,
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
Mormon
Yeah,
land.
Mormon
And
clock.
so,
Yeah.
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 And so it's like, well, you better go and do it even if you didn't serve a mission and even if you don't have a man that wants to marry you.
If you know,
So,
you never see the temple ever.
exactly. And eventually
Wow.
you will get to a point. I've had a few friends that went that route,
Okay.
that never served a mission and didn't get married. And eventually, around, their late 20s, they decided, okay, I'm going to go. But it is very much discouraged for a young woman to go unless it's one of those two reasons.
Okay. Just a little bit of a tangent question that you can quickly answer. An
Sure.
an RM as a guy is seemingly very attractive to the ladies.
A return
A
missionary. Yeah.
return missionary, right? For
Yeah.
a guy, is
Yeah.
very attractive to the ladies because it's like you've returned
Yeah.
from war. Oh my god, look at all the scars. Oh, how
Exactly.
many
Yeah.
dragons did you slay, right? And then how about how about an arm for a lady?
Mm-mm.
How does the attraction prospect? How is the attraction perceived by the men?
Okay,
Yeah,
this is Allie's point.
yeah.
That's a red flag. It would be a
Oh,
red flag. Yeah. Well, hang on, let me explain.
wow.
The reason why is because you weren't wanted when you were at the ripe age of 18, 19, 20, 21.
Yep.
So then you decided to go on a mission because, again, nobody was, wanting you or anything.
Mm,
And so then you chose to serve a mission, and now you've come back from your mission. And it's not like it's bad or anything, but I think it had a little bit of stigma
mm-hmm,
back in my
mm-hmm,
day.
mm-hmm.
But unless it was like this super confident, super amazing girl that knew she wanted that experience. And
Right.
so she held off the men. She held
Okay.
off the guys because this was important for her. But there weren't a lot of girls that were thinking that way
Right. It's not
back
encouraged
in my
anyway.
yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't encouraged. Exactly. It's one of those things that you do only if you haven't been able to achieve what the path that they've chosen for you. So,
Yes. Okay, thank you for
yeah,
answering that. Yeah, that's very
you're
interesting.
welcome.
Yeah, so it's like battle scars not good for lady, battle scars good for man. Okay. All right. Understood. That's, that's all I needed to know. Okay.
We're not cavemen, but yes, in
I
essence.
mean, I mean the analogy works, so
I'll tell you a little bit about the ceremony.
okay.
So, the endowment ceremony is kind of like the big arc of the experience, and it's a series of covenants, symbolic actions and instructions about returning to God's presence. It includes learning special signs, wearing the sacred garments, and making promises about your life and obedience. As a believer, I thought that they were ancient and kind of revealed through divinity. I later, especially at my deconstruction,
Mhm.
learned a lot more about where they actually came from. Other ceremonies are when you're a youth or even an adult, but it starts at the ripe old age of 11, 12. You can enter the temple, but you're only allowed into the basement of the temple, which is where you do baptisms for the dead, which we've talked about in other podcasts.
Yes.
But basically, all of that genealogy that Mormons love to do, one of the main reasons is for the purpose of sealing and connecting these family members to you in the afterlife. And so the first
Mhm.
step is to have them baptized. And so you go, you get in a font just like any baptism that a person would have, but this is for the dead. And so it can only be done within the walls of the temple. And then after that, you go on and do an ordinance called the initiatory work, which is kind of like that beginning of the symbolic actions that are going to happen to the person.
Okay.
And there's a whole history behind that one on how it has also evolved over the years. And so we can break that down another time.
Okay.
But,
Can I ask a
and then,
question about
yeah,
the baptism
sure.
question? So this is immersive, right?
Yes.
So you're
Hmm.
being dipped in the water. How many people can one person do a baptism of the dead for on behalf of? Is there a limit of people that you can do? Can you do? Is
As
it one
many,
person per day? One person per
oh,
turnout?
yeah,
Yeah.
no.
How is it managed?
So if, let's say I had 100 temple names, I could do 100 that day.
And that's
As long
okay.
as the priesthood holder, because it
Yes.
always has to be the man that is the one that's immersing either
Yes.
the young girl or the young boy or whatever into the water,
Yes.
as long as they have the stamina to keep immersing the person, and they'll
Baptize
have
me. Yeah. The stamina.
not
They need a stamina, definitely.
heavens.
Stamina is good for baptism.
You're so silly. I don't know what I'm gonna do with
Oh,
you.
oh no.
I do.
Serious question though. So
Yeah.
like, okay, so you have let's say 20 people. Is it like one immersion for the whole group
It
that you're
can
doing,
be.
or like, is it
No, it can
multiple?
be. If you only want to do one, you just do the one. If you want to do 20, you can do 20. If you brought 100, let's say there are two priesthood holders that can do it, one will do 50 and the other one will do
So
50.
50
And
immersions
yeah,
basically.
yeah,
Whoa. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
just over and over and over like a conveyor belt.
That's good to know. Don't
You're
worry.
good.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
So then there's that initiatory work, then there's the endowment, and that's kind of the meatiest one. And then after that, I'm trying to think, the last one
Right.
is the sealing, which is either you are sealing a man to a woman or children to a husband and wife pair, but that's kind of how those ordinances work. And
Okay.
especially in the endowment ceremony, that's where you are making a lot of covenants, making promises about your life and for and
Mm.
in behalf of the people that you are doing the work for who has died.
So you'll be making promises for yourself of things that you will be doing, and then making promises on behalf of people that are dead and gone.
The same promises, the
The
same
same
promises. So
promises.
it's very
Right.
standardized,
Okay.
very much the same. You do it one time for yourself. And then after your first time of going in and doing that, and that's called doing all of these ceremonies for the living, then the rest of your
Right.
life, you're going back in the temple. You'll
Oh,
never do it for yourself
I
again. You
see.
will
I
only be
see.
doing it for relatives, for dead people, for people that
Interesting.
have passed on who the church has their names of. And like I told you in a other podcast, there was a period of time that Mormons were doing this work for Holocaust victims,
I see.
and the
See.
Jewish community was not okay with that. They were like, absolutely not. Even though I'm sure that the Jewish community didn't believe that the Mormon faith was true, they just didn't appreciate that we were baptizing for the dead
Hmm.
people of Jewish heritage
Yeah.
who had died for their belief back during World War II.
We go all the way back to when we were living in the forest and the caves. Is these
Mm.
little rituals that means a lot to our community. When someone we know, someone that we deeply care about, passes away, we wouldn't find it very savory for some other tribe that we don't know to do special rituals for them. No, they want to be the one to do them, and they want to honor their lives and honor their deaths. So they would see that as an insult, and to some extent even as an affront for war. Like, if people have fought over these things about practicing doing rituals on behalf of other people that they don't recognize. Even during the time of when the Vikings invade England and some of the leaders settled in England and they died, and some of them converted to Christianity, there was this dispute whether they would be given the burial in the pagan way, or in the
Mm.
Norse way, or a Christian burial, right? And
Oh,
that
I see. Yeah.
exactly. So that it's always been a thing, since for history, and it's a tribalistic behavior in
Yeah.
humans. It's like it's our person, it's our guy, and we get to bury him.
Absolutely.
You don't get to impose your beliefs on them. We get to
Absolutely.
do that,
Yeah.
and that's just that
Yeah.
is it's if anything, it's just natural for the Jews to have reacted that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I wish that Mormons of that time had had the good sense to not even have
How did they
started to
find out?
do
Did they
something
announce
like
it?
that.
How did they find out? Because it's a
I
secret, right? It's something that's happening behind the temple.
Oh,
So how
well,
would
but
they
not
find
the
out?
because of the genealogy. Because so my mother was a professional genealogist
Okay.
before she passed away. And so she specialized in Italian family history because of my Italian roots and everything. And so she would do the genealogy of people of Italian heritage. And
Mm.
let me tell you something, to get the records for Italian family history, you have to go into Catholic churches all
Oh
over Italy.
wow.
And priests and nuns are not wanting to hand over those records because
Okay.
their thought process is the same as the Jewish thought process. If I let you have access to these things, these are good Catholics that you're wanting to find out their name, their birth, and connect them to these lineages just to baptize them into the Mormon faith. There's something that
Oh.
messes with people that hold tightly to their religious faith, even though they can squarely look you in the face and say your religion is a cult or your religion is
Right.
made up or your religion is whatever their bias is.
Yeah.
They're still protective of their names. They're
Yeah.
still protected of their people.
Yeah.
Because, for example, the Jewish community could have been like, oh, those crazy Mormons, what are they doing? And
Yeah.
we know it doesn't make any sense. So what's the big deal?
Yeah.
And they could have left it there.
Yeah.
And Catholics could leave it there, but they don't because it is an affront. It is
Yes.
something that they feel,
Sacred.
yeah, for them it is
Yeah.
in their own way.
Yeah.
And so, as it is for the Mormons to want to be doing this because they feel like they have it right, we've got the Catholics, we've got any of these other denominations, these other groups that are also finding, that their path, their ways of doing things is sacred, and they're not going to just let anybody come in and do that kind of thing.
It's very
So,
interesting how the conversation has led back to the question that you asked before, which is the difference
yeah.
between sacred and secret. And that is, it's something that's deemed as sacred doesn't have to be a secret. And something being sacred doesn't mean it is a secret. Something
Hmm.
that's secret
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean it has to be sacred. It just has to be
Yeah.
something that you do behind the
Yeah.
scenes that you don't want other people to know. Now, it
Yeah.
could be sacred, which would question why it's a secret, but there are so many practices of people that we deem sacred. Like, there are people who deem everyday trivial things, sometimes, they deem them as sacred, like people's workout routines, how people treat their body, the food that people eat. There are so many things that people individually in their own way deem as sacred, and a lot of the times they act out how sacred they see that thing to be. They you see that in their behavior, the way that they treat the thing, the object, or the idea as sacred. You see that in the open. It's usually not behind the scenes, because something that you respect doesn't need to be respected secretly. It's
Hmm.
respected regardless of who is there. So it makes you think doing things behind the scenes and expecting the whole world to respect it as sacred is definitely the wrong way to go. If it is so sacred, why are you hiding it?
I like how you look at it. I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because there are so many sacred practices like Buddhism. There are so many things that they find sacred.
absolutely.
Their statues, their incense, their cloth. There are so many, but we know all of them because they don't hide them. Now
Yeah, and we can talk
and
about
we can
them,
talk about
and
them.
we can still revere them and hold them sacred, but it's not this
Now
secret
they might have
society or
secrets.
secrecy.
They
Yeah.
might have secrets in Buddhism in their monks, but
Sure.
that's not for us to care about, and that's not for
Yeah.
us to, because if you've hidden it, that means you don't think it should be in public spaces. And if you don't
Mhm.
want it to be in public spaces, then that makes me wonder, what are you hiding?
Yeah.
And that's never a good
Hmm.
thing.
It isn't, isn't
Yeah.
it?
No.
That's kind of where it goes down to that when you're keeping a secret, is it because you're afraid if the public were to find out
Hmm.
that they would mock it, that they
Hmm.
would laugh at it, or they would point out, well, hang on a second, this is just a Masonic ritual that, you just added
Mm.
some trimmings to.
Yes. You mentioned Masonic ritual. In Ghana, when I was in Ghana, we used to associate the Freemasons with Mormons, the Latter-day Saints, a lot. We used to associate them a lot because when we think of secret societies and stuff like that, we're like, oh yeah,
Okay,
just like the Freemasons and the Mormons, or the Latter-day
that's
Saints
right.
people. We would always associate them too. I never really
Yeah.
knew the differences. I just knew that they were rich. For some reason, I just, oh yeah, those people, they're just rich. But yeah,
Very westernized.
yes.
Absolutely. So, and just to recap with the ceremonies, the types of promises that you're making, and I'm just gonna do this very highbrow, dedicating your time, your talents, everything you have to the church. I wasn't prepared. I didn't
Mm.
have the full scope of what I would be committing to and what that would look like.
This
And
is and this is when your first time in a temple.
yes, correct. Because I
That's
only go one
crazy.
time for myself, and I'm extremely in a place of ignorance and not knowing anything. But here's what I
Wow.
do know. Here's what I do know, Evans. If I want to go on to the next step, the next level, I have to do this.
Mm.
So if I want to go on a mission,
Mhm.
I have to go through this procedure, this rite of passage.
Right.
Otherwise, I can't go. And also, if I want to marry that handsome boy across the altar,
Yeah.
I am going to have to do these things in the temple. And at the very beginning of the ceremony, they basically say, the very, very beginning, if for any reason you don't feel comfortable and you don't want to do this, now's the time to leave. And I remember how absolutely horrific that would be
Mm.
at that moment because on your first time, family comes out. On your first
Oh,
time, you are surrounded by friends and family, especially if
that
a
is,
wedding is going to happen that day.
yes,
Or
yes,
if you're leaving on a mission, this is a big moment in the young
yes.
man's life. As we learned in the Book of Mormon musical, that's kind of like the pinnacle of, for the
Okay.
youth. And so, how easy is
Oh,
it going to be for them to be like, okay, I'm getting all these uncomfortable vibes. I don't know what's about to happen. But if I stand up now, what does that signal to the rest of my
that's so
community?
unfair. So, hold on. The perspective is you've never been at the Mormon temple. You go there, half fully prepared with some random course, which doesn't fully prepare you.
No.
You go there for the first time with your family,
Yes.
and then they're like, "Oh, hey, by the way, you can leave if you
Yeah.
want to." It's like that's not
Yeah.
fair. That's a
It
trap.
isn't.
That's a
And
trap.
again,
No one can say
even
no. This is under duress. That's you saying yes under duress. Because the fear of disappointing your family sets in, the fear of what that might mean when you say
yeah.
no. And also, if
Yeah.
you're, like you said, if you're getting married, what does that mean for their marriage?
Right.
Because you can't say no to the ritual
No.
without saying no to the marriage.
Yeah.
That
And
is
so I
that's not consent. That is not
it
consent.
isn't. And that's why I want to talk about this is
Wow.
because it's a big deal. And I've just heard and sadly listened to so many stories
Hmm.
where some of these people have gone to the temple that one time and never returned because it
Oh.
was just so much for them that they just couldn't go back. And
Wow.
we are challenged not only to go back, but to go back often. And so for them to
Wow.
be so shaken by that experience says a lot. And I've had friends that also have just had these experiences where they just didn't feel right, but what were they going to
Yeah,
do
what
at
can
that
you do?
point?
Yeah. It's kind of like in mainstream weddings, right? When you get married, you're saying the vows, and the respected figure that's officiating the wedding says if anyone has anything to say for some reason why they think this wedding shouldn't happen, speak now or forever hold your peace. That is
Hmm.
said in
Right?
a way that's kind of like rhetorical because we are hoping that no one really says anything.
Sure.
And 90% of the time in all marriages, no one ever says anything. So it's not
Sure.
really acts as in genuinely asking, seeking for someone to say, because we kind of have it in the backside of like, oh, I hope nobody says anything kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that's similar to you being asked, oh, by the way, you can leave anytime you want. When
Yeah.
when they see your family behind you, your friends behind
Yeah.
you, everyone excited to
Yeah.
see you, and they're like, "Oh, you can leave,
Yeah.
but if you can disappoint everyone here if you want to." It's like, what? No,
Yeah.
no, of course not.
Yeah.
Like that's a rhetorical
Yeah.
question. That's not an
Right.
answerable question, and so unfair for a
Yeah.
young
Yeah.
lady at the age of 2021
Yeah.
to be put in that pressure. That's a lot of pressure to pretend
It
as
is.
though you are activating some form of consensual practice. No, that's not consensual. That is putting someone under duress. That is abuse.
They don't see it that way.
Of
And
course.
so, yeah, of course they don't. But
Interesting
when you
though.
step back
Huh.
and you look at it for what it really is, yeah, that
Wow.
this is exactly what happens. They're not informed, they're not prepared. They go in and they're like, oh my goodness. I remember the very day that I went to receive my endowment, which is what it's called. I left and I was going to hang out with a group of friends that evening. And so I did. And I remember one of my friends, he said, "So, how was it? How was your first experience?" And I was just like, I'm still taking it in. And he was like,
Mm.
did you ask yourself what kind of a crazy cult did I join? And I remember taking pause in that moment. I had never had a member of my own faith
Oh.
actually use that term. And I'd heard other people say it to me and
Oh.
say it, but I always knew that it was very derogatory. So
Okay.
when he said it jokingly, I really did take pause because I was like, I'll be honest, Evans, my thought in that moment was, holy shit, I think I just joined a cult.
Ooh, I can only imagine how that must have felt. But you see how easy humor can get past all the
Yeah.
walls.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Humor.
like he said, or this person
Yeah.
said it in a kind of like a mildly jokingly way, and then that it
Exactly.
went past all your defenses.
Exactly. And it made me like chuckle.
Yeah,
This kind of humor, much like the Book of Mormon
mm.
musical, behind it is a
Is the
truth
truth.
that's
Yeah,
worth exploring.
yeah,
And so when he said that, yeah, it's haha funny,
yes.
but then it's like, well, that kind of did feel a little bit
Mm.
like I was signing up for something that I wasn't fully informed of, and I'm not quite sure at my young
Yeah,
age if this is something that
yeah.
makes sense, much like the
Mm-hmm.
living baptism, because in the Mormon faith,
Okay.
when you are baptized for yourself, it's at the age of 8. And even then,
Oh,
I still believed in Santa Claus. I still believed in the tooth fairy. So you have to ask yourself, are these children really able to commit their lives to an organization that they know very little about, and they're wanting to do it for the presents,
yeah.
and they're wanting to do it for the ceremony and for the
Oh,
festivities
they
that
get
are around
presents.
it?
They get
Well,
presents.
my children thought that they would. So
Oh,
all of my children except for my youngest was baptized in the faith, and I remember my last one that he was just like, well, yeah, I'll get baptized. I would really love to, like maybe I'll get some presents or whatever. And I'm like, no promises. Like I'll get you something, but I don't know if our friends and family are gonna bring
okay.
anything around.
So,
But yeah.
here are the facts. Children
Yeah.
can't consent. So we know that baptism at 8
Yeah.
is, we can scratch
Yeah.
all of that. That majority of children that get baptized at 8, between the ages
Yeah.
of 8 all the way to 16, none of them can be
Sure.
counted as genuinely fully informed consent. And
Yeah.
even when you go past 16, 17,
Yeah.
18 to 2021 as a young lady,
Hmm.
seeing the Mormon temple for the first time, going into it
Mm.
for the first time, even then you can't fully consent because you don't have the full information. So we can scratch all of that as well. That is not informed consent, that is coercion and giving consent under duress. So we can scratch all of that, as majority of young adults in the Mormon church right now have not
Yeah.
fully consented to being a member of the church.
Again, I can only paint the picture from this bird's eye view. Yeah, I would agree with you, and but they don't
The
see it
only
that
way,
way.
yeah, of course,
Yeah,
the only way, this is factually right, so this is not
yeah,
based on opinion. So the only way someone can give full consent if they have if they have full information.
correct.
Do majority of young adults, for the first time they get into the temple, have full information about Mormonism and the temple and everything?
No,
No. So they can't fully consent. That's the fact.
yeah.
Yes.
I only learned about much of the things that we'll be talking about in future episodes
Mm.
at the ripe old age of 37. Like for me, I only gave myself permission to look behind the curtain
Wow.
much later in life. And I just continuously ate what I was being spoon fed, and I drank the Kool-Aid, and I stuck to the materials that the church gave their approval of. And it wasn't until so much later in my life, it was that granting of myself permission to do deep dives into these topics and realize that what I had been told wasn't historically accurate, wasn't even something close to the truth.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is powerful. And
Yeah.
that is a lot to go through. I can only imagine, with everything else that you've already,
Yeah.
disclosed to us about what you're going through at home with your
Yeah.
family, your school, your college, and everything like that. And it's like, to also have this on the other side, just
Yeah.
so much uncertainty, anxiety, and also the need to please and be the right person for the right beehive. That's too much for a lot of people. And that's why I can understand why, because when you're going through all of these things all at once, your brain does one thing to protect you, and that is it shuts you down, it makes you numb
Yeah.
to
Mm.
everything else, and it makes you, it protects you. That's why you become adverse to information that counteracts what you've been told, because you don't even have the full information. So any information that negates what you're being told just adds more to the pressure, because you want to know the full information anyway. and
Yeah.
and then it's just such, it's so unfair.
Yeah.
It is so unfair for young people,
Yeah.
and then to be sent out to Uganda, for example, like, oh hey, like goodbye, like
Yeah. Yeah.
what, like so unprepared, man.
Right.
Poor Elder
And then
Cunningham. Oh man.
for me, what was hard is that I've always had this inquisitive mind and
Uh-oh.
I had questions. And so for
Ah,
somebody like me, it was maddening to
yeah.
not be able to wonder, ask,
Mm,
want to confront certain things
yeah.
and be told not to go down that path. And so I was like, okay, I just have to have faith and I just
Yeah.
have to trust and keep going and keep doing the next thing that
Indeed.
they ask me to do. There have been certain things with the garments that have changed over time,
Okay.
but also there were certain things within the temple ceremony that's changed over time. And a lot of people have kind of been confused by this because
Mm,
if this was something that God had commissioned or whatever, wouldn't it be right the first time? Why would it need to be tweaked or changed? And one of the big things that happened in my lifetime that was a struggle for me was that when I got married in 2007, I made a covenant, and that covenant was to hearken unto my husband as long
mhm.
as he was good and faithful. I was to covenant to him. He covenanted not to me,
Mm.
but
But
to
to
God.
God.
I made a promise that was contingent on the worthiness of a man, of my spouse.
Right.
And
Right.
it was not a connection between me and my God. That was only reserved for the man.
I see.
And in 2019, they changed that. And
Oh, wow.
And that was very hard for me to swallow.
Wow.
I was still very much a member, and I was like, I joked at first because I was like, "Oh, are they going to do a recall where everybody, that got married before 2019 gets to go back into the temple and gets to redo their ceremony?" And
Well,
and that was my silly take on it. Obviously, no. But then it was like, well, hang on a second. Everybody, though, that is getting married these days, the female gets to go in and make a covenant right with their Lord and Savior, just
mm,
like the men. But I didn't get that opportunity.
a lot of
And
women
that,
didn't get that.
well, everybody before 2019,
Everybody before 2019. Yes.
every single female that entered into the temple all across the
Wow.
world covenanted to her husband, not to
Wow.
God. And now they can covenant to God.
Yeah. Yeah.
To
That
me,
that that
that's a
would
problem.
definitely, yeah, that would definitely put a sour taste in your mouth, because
Mhm.
it doesn't even matter whether you are out now or something like that, but this is something that you were made to commit to, and that defined a lot of decisions that you had to make in your real life, not just in your religious journey, in your real life, in your relationship,
Yeah,
with your husband,
yeah,
and the relationship with your children, and the relationship with yourself, most importantly, where you fall in this world, basically.
yeah.
It defines a lot of things. And then 2019, just like in 1978, it's like, ah, you
God changed
know,
his mind about women, and
yeah,
he is going to allow them
yeah.
to have a relationship directly with him
Mm.
that doesn't involve, excuse me, it doesn't involve, why do I keep saying that wrong? Okay, doesn't involve, the need for a priesthood holder or a man, in other words. That was huge for somebody like me who was one of the few girls at Brigham Young University, the Lord's School. Um,
Mm.
where I got my minor in women's studies. I've always been very interested in gender roles and the female side of the human race. So when that happened, it was very bothersome because I didn't think that was right. But then it kind of started paving a way for me to think of things differently now. Right when I first got married, there was already something that kind of was bothering me. And that was when you are in the temple and you're getting married, you are given, well, just when you start the whole process inside of the temple, you are given a new name. And I've talked to you about that. And so
Oh.
everyone's given a new name, and the male is allowed to know your name. But the
Mm,
female is not allowed to know their husband's name, their husband's
right.
new name. And so already you're not
Yes. On equal footing. Yes.
on equal footing.
How
Exactly.
are they dishing out these names?
So every day of the month, there are 30 to 31 names, and in February, there'll be 28 names, and every day is the same name. So the 19th of March is going to be the same name as the 19th of April.
But nobody knows that. People know
Oops.
that? No,
No.
no, I mean people that are in.
If you're a temple worker, if you work at the
Yes.
temple, you're going to figure that
Oh,
out,
right.
first of all.
Right. Okay.
But it's not some, again, it's one of those secret things. Like
Yes.
we don't talk about it, we don't divulge. I didn't learn
Right.
that
Right.
until I was on my way out.
Right.
So I thought it was very special. I thought it was
mhm.
unique
It's
to me.
your name.
Yeah, that God was like, this is what he calls you, or this is going to be your name. And so for me, I thought it was very special and I was really excited about it, only to find out that everybody that walked through the temple all over the world on October, whatever day it was, got the same name. And so it was a big
Wow.
letdown because I was like, oh, there's nothing special about this. There's nothing important about this. So,
That is incredible. So now that I don't know if you know this, but now that ladies are now committing to God rather than to the husband on their
yeah.
weddings,
Hmm.
how are they? Are they still maintaining the husband? I guess it's a slow evolution, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
if they get to commit themselves to God, so the husband still need to hold some power, so he would still know
Well,
their name, right?
the men still hold all the priesthood
Right.
authority and everything. And
Right.
that's, again, another podcast all about the priesthood would be great to
Yes.
understand that.
Oh
But
yeah, definitely.
yeah, they're still not the head of the household by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, basically,
Okay.
these were the things that were uncomfortable and difficult for me to swallow.
Wow.
Yeah. And here's
It's
the thing, Evans, in a generation, in two, my sorrows are going to be a footnote. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe nobody will ever remember that, oh yeah, before 2019 there was this. And that's a
right.
little
Right.
that
That's
should,
messed up. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
gonna all disappear.
that's like when I went to Ghana in 2023 for the first time in 10 years. Yeah, for the first time in 10 years when I came to the UK. I went back to Ghana in 2023 for a friend's wedding. And I went there and I was inquiring about what's been going on since I've been away. They've banned corporal punishment in schools.
That's right. I
No
remember you
more
telling me that.
no more actual canes. Now when I talk about canes, I'm talking about fine wood stripped from the bark of a tree that's been put
Mm-hmm.
through a whole there's a whole
Mm-hmm.
cane making industry in Ghana when I was a student in Ghana when I was a kid. There was a cane factory specifically for
Wow.
making fine refined wood stripped from the bark of a tree to for punishment by teachers. Now some are big, some are small, some are thin, some are different. They come in different shapes and sizes, all to administer corporal punishment to students. They weren't these cute rulers. They weren't these cute. No, no, they were actual criminal-like canes that would hurt an adult. It would hurt anybody.
Good
And
God,
and
Evans.
I was brutalized. I wasn't just I was abused
Yeah.
like many children at my age when I was going to school.
Yeah.
Millions and millions of human beings abused and brutalized and bleeding on their backs, on their palms. And then I go back in 2023 and they're like, oh yeah, they banned that. And I was like, they did? Now, I'm happy that they did, but at the same time, it's
Of
like,
course.
so,
Yeah.
so you have the ability to administer teachings to children
Hmm.
without it.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. What do we do? What?
And I can covenant to God without needing a man.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It's like,
it's a
really?
crazy, yeah,
Just like,
yeah,
sorry about that. We were wrong. Oh,
yeah.
okay. You do realize that some of us are still scarred from this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I'm just
But
saying
we'll
that to
be
relate
dead
to.
within, yeah, but
Yeah.
we'll be dead within a generation,
Oh no,
within
I will live
three,
forever. What are you talking about? I will live forever.
except for you.
Ali. Yeah.
Sorry, forgive me.
What? Come
I
on.
meant to, yeah, sorry. But the rest of us, within 3 generations, all of this will be forgotten unless somebody keeps pointing to
Keep
it.
score, yeah.
Yeah,
And even then it would still be like, that was like biblical times, 1823,
sure.
right? That's what that's how they would see it as.
That's
It's
so funny.
it would be
Yeah,
so far removed from their reality that it wouldn't even give them a pause. That
right.
at some point your religion
Yeah,
was creating some kind of de facto submission
yeah,
to their
yeah,
husbands by giving them so much power that they didn't even have to commit to God, they just had to commit to the man as though the man was in place of the God.
yeah,
Very, very, very weird. But now they just get to be like, oh no, we are not, like, we are very pro woman, see?
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just going to end on this one point. Obviously, I have more to cover,
of
but
course.
this is just a fun anecdote just to go into it. In my family heritage, at the time of the first temples, like the Salt Lake Temple or the St. George Temple, at the Salt Lake Temple, which was one of the first ones, the ceremony in the endowment part of the covenants that you're making, it's kind of like a little bit of a play goes on.
Okay.
And there's Adam, there's Eve, and now we have it in movie form. So we can watch it, and
Oh,
nobody's really performing it. But back before there were movies, like
wow.
in the 1800s, early 1900s, people would be, enacting the different roles, and it's a silly piece of family history, but apparently my great grandfather was reputed as the best Satan that
Oh,
ever
well, that's
performed in the temple, that people would love it if he was acting as the role of Satan. Anyway, so that's just a silly family story.
that's
But
fun.
one of the other big changes that I learned about when I was deconstructing was that there used to be a ceremony within the temple called the oaths and the punishments, I believe, or the penalties. And basically, you were to do a symbol. So this is before 1990. So we're talking, this is something my parents covenanted to. I have a few relatives that are in their early 50s. They would have covenanted to do this, but basically, it is a gesture and an oath that you make saying that if you reveal the temple endowment, the details, any of those things, you basically are doing like the symbols of slitting your throat. And
Right.
these are things that I was never made aware of. There was another one back in right after Joseph Smith well, not passed away, but was killed, where you were supposed to make an oath that you would avenge his death. And all of these things were being done as part of the
Wow.
ceremony. Now those things have been removed. But at one time or another, these
Wow.
more violent, these more
Wow.
intense oaths that you're making in the temple happened. Obviously, because they're not talked about, a lot of us never knew. Like, I wouldn't have known until I started doing this kind of research.
Yeah.
And yet, you can go and ask anyone. When Mitt Romney, if you're familiar with him, he ran for president. And when he was running for president, they asked him, "We've heard that you would have made this kind of covenant. Did you do that?" And of course, he denied it or just didn't want to bring light to it because you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to talk about the things
The
that go on
secret.
in the temple, exactly
Right.
outside of the temple. But technically, he would have had to make this same oath and covenant. Yeah, so that was
That
a
is
big
pretty
one.
concerning. Yeah.
Those are more of like the gruesome things that went on.
The vows that are still active right now, from your experience, is one that prevents you from telling us what you've just told us, some of the things that you've just told us today about the
Yeah,
things that goes on in the temple.
yeah.
You were made to take a vow to never do that, or else danger.
You You are asked not to divulge the things that go on in the temple, and you are asked to respect that. And so, yeah, that's why in these weeks, in these days, as you and I have talked about it, I've wrestled with the idea of how do I bring information to the uninformed? Because I do this as much for the believers as I do for the non-believers. You
Yeah,
know, if any of my children were to one day want to continue on in the Mormon faith, I want them to know because if they choose for themselves that this is something that they want to do, I support that. I'm perfectly fine, but I feel that people should be given informed consent. I feel
yeah,
like
I agree.
ignorance isn't bliss, and ignorance is quite detrimental.
Yeah,
And I share this delicately, respectfully. At least that is my intent. And like you said to me before we started, there's no way I can put this that is going to make anybody happy. There's always going to be somebody that's going to come after me. But I genuinely share these things because they were a shock to my system when I went through them. And when I found out the truth behind them, there's a few other things, a few other ceremonies that I want to talk to you about that really rocked my world when I really learned about
oh
them
wow.
and were really, really hard on me with the cognitive dissonance, with understanding, wait, is this real? Is this really happening? And then having all those other things reemerge on the surface, like, yeah, I never felt right not being on
Mm.
equal footing with my spouse when I was getting married. And so all of these things I do with the hope of being able to allow for that information in the most tasteful and respectful way that I can. But yeah, it's never going to come out right. But
No.
that's my hope. And so
And
that's where I think I'm good at
you
ending.
have done you have done well, Ali. This is amazing. This is very brave. You are a champion among women, a champion among
No,
ex-Mormons, and
no.
being comfortable enough to talk about this definitely puts you out there in the way that I respect you right now. So
Oh, thank you.
I know that you had to think about that a lot before you wanted
Let's
to divulge this information. So,
perhaps though, I just come from a long line of really amazing Satans and
see,
and
that's
so it
why.
gets handed down and
That's
somehow
why.
it's trickled down to me
That's why it
too.
comes so
I don't
easy for
know.
you. Like you were always
Maybe.
this way, Ali. You were made to do this.
To do this. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll keep talking about it, but this is a good place to pause. But yeah, these are some of the things and some of my experience that I can speak to going in for the first time.
Yes.
And yeah,
Yes. Thank you very much, Ali. Guys,
of course.
I hope you can appreciate what Ali has done for us today and what she will be doing for the next coming upcoming series as we divulge into more secrets that happen in the Mormon temple and just secret
Yeah,
theologies as well, things that are taught that
sure.
we may not be privy to from a Mormon's perspective and an
That's
ex-Mormon's
right.
perspective. That would be really good to know because yes, I agree that information needs to be out there and people need to be aware
Yeah.
of what they're getting themselves into if they start to look at the Mormon temple and it's like, that's actually really nice. I would like to be a member. It's like, okay, cool. Hey, here's the information. Here's the
Here's the
information.
information. Yeah. And the truth is that I don't discredit that to a Mormon, all these things they're sacred. And I am 100% there for that. If you hold those things sacred, if they are important, there's plenty of religions out there that do sacred ceremonies to them or wear, sacred clothes. You see it in Catholicism and Hinduism and Buddhism, all of it. And so I completely get it. But at what point, though, does it cross that line where, yes, it's sacred, but it's also secret? And there are certain things that maybe need to, be addressed, at least to the people that are wanting to convert or become part of this organization.
Yes,
So,
and if the main concern of what Ali said today is the fact that she is talking about it,
yeah,
that should make you question whether the things that you hold are indeed sacred or they are just your favorite secrets that you
secrets.
like to that you want to keep. Because secrets are
Yeah.
not necessarily sacred, And the sacred things are not always secrets. So, because if I talk about Christianity and the Holy Communion that they take, about taking the bread for the body of Jesus Christ and
Hmm.
the wine for
Exactly.
the blood of Jesus, those are sacred things, but I can talk about them and none of them will be offended, as long as obviously I'm not poking fun of it. If Ali just talking about it in the most respectful way that she can, and me being here laughing out loud, if what she's doing offends you, you should maybe take a step back and think, are you offended because she's just talking about it, which should make you also think, why are you offended because someone is just talking about it?
Yeah.
And if you're not offended, hey, I hope you enjoyed the video. Okay. So
It is your choice. It's your choice to get offended or not. And
yes.
yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't control you so much, but I wish I could control you to hit the like button, press share, and we will see you guys in the next episode with more Mormon secrets, man.
Thank you.
This has been
Thanks,
amazing, Ali.
everybody.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Evan. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.